All right, we are recording again. Welcome back, everyone. This is Aluminum Tarot. Thanks so much for joining today. It's a lovely May season. We are still in Moo Crew season, Taurus season for those. And yeah, having a lovely time and great weather. I've already celebrated my solar return earlier in the month. So very happy to have gone out, done some nice motorbike riding in Wales, experiencing some of the lovely hikes that they've got around the area. And, just enjoy my time in Snowdonia. I think it's a really, really beautiful part of the UK. And, I will always go back there just to kind of hang out, spend some time with the Welsh, and just really have a good time. How about you? How have you been spending the time in this lovely, radiant weather that we've been having? Today, I'll be reading for the sign of Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. We're going to be using the Wild Unknown Tarot deck. So this is going to be both the Tarot deck and also the Archetypes. So we'll be using the Archetypes Oracle deck to give ourselves a message at the beginning, and then from there clarify for the past, present, and future, and then more clarification as well. So with Virgo, we have the sign, the underworld. So this is going to be a very interesting card here. With the underworld, we're going to tell a little bit of a story about what that insinuates and then go into it a little bit soon. So, the underworld. Now, for you, Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Ascendant, this is no time to mince words. The archetypal territory of the underworld is fraught with nightmares, suffering, and pain. It is the darkest shadow realm, which we try vigilantly to avoid or deny at any cost. Try as we might, the darkness pulls us into its depths through its disturbing dream images, unexpected accidents, illness, war, conflict, and ultimately death. Not visiting the underworld or denying its existence altogether is what gives it dangerous power. Traversing it forces us to bow humbly to the greater forces that be, while summoning the inner strength we previously underestimated. Take solace that the underworld subsumes everyone from time to time, making us deeper friends, more intimate partners, soldiers of light amid our shadowy times. Facing darkness and choosing light is the most profound calling of all. So, I have been speaking about the Archangel Samael, and it is one that is not included a lot in the mythos or the pantheon of, anything Judeo-Christian to a degree, but also when it comes to Kabbalah. We speak about going through the fifth sphere, which is the sphere of Gevurah, which I will give a detailed explanation of probably sometime later tonight or whenever. And we talk about the underworld as being a place where we go within. We need to be brave to face the challenges that that appear in our lives. And furthermore, it is a chance for us to go through what I like to call the crucible, which is where we endure very severe, difficult trials and tribulations. The whole purpose of doing this is to face our shadow self, to incorporate that shadow self into our own sense of being, and then finally showing gratitude so that we can individuate into a new, authentic individual self. This is what Jungian psychology speaks to as the individuation process. And that is a lot of what the Wild Unknown talks about, going into that unknown territory where we feel discomfort, where we feel like we are not really up to scratch when it comes to facing these challenges. And interesting. Underneath the underworld, I had a second card. So that card is Fault Line. Not really sure what that's about, but I'll quickly read about it. Let's see. Fault Line. So that's number 19. Okay. Fault Line. Imagine walking across a frozen lake that begins to crack before your eyes. No matter how optimistic and brave you might be, panic ensues. You become fearful and tense and long for stable ground. Such is the energy of the fault line. It is the energy of walking on eggshells, of precarious dynamics, of sensing what's ready to break open into chaos. It is likely this cracking open is overdue, as fault lines develop slowly and naturally from underlying elemental pressures. This card comes as a potent warning not to deny the shakiness that's afloat. It's much better to prepare yourself for change than to walk along the fault line pretending all is well. There is no easy fix for the situation at hand. It will require a foundational shift that alters the current dynamics from the ground up. So it's almost supporting what we had in the underworld. You may be tried and tested to undergo a difficult situation or circumstance which is related specifically to challenges arising from today's environment. So, for example, we have in the Strait of Hormuz, we have a lot of things going on, which the knock-on effects of that include a lot of problems and challenges faced with economic situations, jobs, fuel shortages. We also have things like food shortages as well, and overall supplies. So think about what happened in 2020 with the pandemic and how all of the different logistics that we needed at that specific time were put under immense strain and pressure. Additionally, with the Strait of Hormuz, this may affect everything going on, people's livelihoods, their ability to access resources, their ability to feel safe and secure in their countries. A lot of things could crop up. So this, to me, for the Virgo that I'm speaking to, deals with going deep within, facing the shadow, due to the fact of all of these maddening circumstances that are, they're cropping up, and you see the lines start to crack within your firm foundation. So very strong tower energy is what I'm seeing. And, it's almost like you feel the earth beneath you opening up, and then you fall into the abyss of molten hell that awaits below you. Not to say that you'll succumb to it, but it is to say that it is a strong possibility that you may face a very challenging time. So with that said, we'll go into what's taking place for your past, your present, and your future. So that way we can see more about this situation. Comment below to let me know if you've had to go through a specific kind of crucible to date, and what happened in that. And if so, how did you overcome this situation? Perhaps we can help the community of people who are here on YouTube, access this information from your specific responses to them. And then after that, how you got over it. So they can help enrich their own lives by kind of getting through it. We also, of course, in the UK, we had elections. So it was a bloodbath, to say the least. And that's going to bring a lot of kind of changes. There's a lot of new people that are going to join Parliament, or different constituencies around the countryside. I think there was 136 constituencies that were contested in England, if I'm not mistaken, but don't quote me on that. Altogether, there are 650. And throughout the entirety of the UK, there were a lot of losses from Labour. We talked about that briefly in one of the other readings that I did about the Labour Party, where you can go back to that. I'll add a link to that in this below. Now, that said, start with the recent past. Talk about current present. And then we'll speak about the near future. Okay, wow. It's a lot of energy here that is quite substantial. So we'll go through this, we'll talk about it, and then we'll stay solution orientated, so that way we can talk about this a bit more. Clarify the recent past. And talk about the present. Okay. All right. So, a lot going on here. Trying not to have too many cards fly out. Okay. So, in this card, I'm going to stop here. I'm just going to take this all in. Now, whatever Virgo I'm speaking to here, this is a forewarning. Not to say to panic or to, you know, get your knickers in a twist or anything like that. But what we want to do is to prepare for what could take place in your specific life. Now, in the recent past, Eight of Wands in the reverse. This is about feeling blockages, either in communication or in action, having to wait until you can take action on something specific. And for you, what this did is this created a bit of a blockage in your physical, in your environment. You felt like it was difficult for you to manifest things that were important to you and that you had been trying to work on for a specified amount of time. So for that, we're also evidenced by the Six of Pentacles in the reverse. So if you felt blocked, significantly blocked in your past, these are the cards that would actually talk about that a bit. You felt like you couldn't manifest something, things were not materializing. It was difficult for you to kind of get your way when it came to the universe, and it was difficult for you to say to the universe, hey, I really want this one thing. Can we please move this forward? And it just felt like you almost wanted to give up on it. I'm getting energy related to your stability. If you were looking for a new job or things of that nature, it was probably difficult for you to receive that, but you persevered, you tried to move on, and you tried to make some kind of substantial baby steps towards your future livelihood. And I don't know, I almost want to pull a clarifier. What is this related to? What is the clarifier for this reading? That popped up. Yeah. Five of Cups. So this is disappointment. So the Virgo I'm speaking to had disappointment in something specific, and this may have had to deal with matters of the heart. Something where you felt something was very unfair, justice in the reverse. So you may have had something like a failed love relationship, a situation where there was a broken contract, things where you felt that you didn't get a contract that you wanted, and it left you feeling very heartbroken about the matter. So take for an example, this is just an algorithm, and apply this to your life as a Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. You put yourself in the dating market, and all of a sudden you find that every person that you run into, you don't have the progress with them that you wanted. So people may ghost, people may cause problems, they may be a bit catty. You feel like they're not giving and taking in the proper way that they should have, which is Six of Pentacles in the reverse. You feel like you cannot manifest the relationship that you really want. The Magician in the reverse. The communication stops, it flutters, it's not consistent, with the Eight of Wands in the reverse as well. So you're getting to the point right now where in that case, it feels like your love life is just falling apart. And you're getting to the point where you see the cracks beginning to form. You see the cracks beginning to form in the entire dating market altogether. If this is a job-related thing, this feels to me like the people you work with are not reciprocating. They're not helping you out. You're not receiving the energy that you're putting into it, or it feels that that energy is blocked. So every time you try, it's hard for you to move forward in your career. So however this relates to you, you would have to, take it as it resonates and then move forward with that. So in the current energy, what you have here is the King of Pentacles in the reverse. With the King of Pentacles in the reverse, it feels like you're overwhelmed. That's the first word that comes to my mind. It could be that, you have difficult finances, things of that nature in this current time. But I'm getting a person who's feeling overwhelmed with, Their work responsibilities may be a bit too much. They may have too many things to juggle, to balance. You may feel that you miss important things like meetings. You may have difficult things like an overabundance of different tasks and things that you have to manage. And then after that, the reason why I say that is because you have the Two of Pentacles in the reverse, which means that it's difficult for you to keep up with all the things that you have to adapt to and you have to juggle in your life. Now, with that, we also have the Star in the reverse. Perhaps your workplace is quite disorganized, and it is more difficult for you to do your job because of that reason. Furthermore, you may find that there's not a really steady foundation in the place that you work. If this is your love life, you just feel like you feel almost like your resources are drained financially. So, for example, Five of Cups, Justice in the reverse. This is a disappointing divorce. If you have gone through a divorce, there's no communication in the recent past. There's a lot of things that you had to give up. You've had to, forfeit or, relinquish a lot of resources in order to pay for this divorce, which has now led you into a period where you feel skint, for lack of a better word. And the situation seems hopeless. This is very common for men who have gone through a divorce. And usually, the wife gets half or the partner gets half. And then it becomes a challenging situation for you to endure down the road. Now, that said, we then move into the last card, the future, the Tower. We're going to clarify what this Tower means, and then we'll talk a little bit about the outcome. Clarify the Tower, please, Stuart. Okay. Okay, so we have here a bit of energy. With the Tower, we talk about foundations that have been destroyed in order to build something more positive for your life. And this is the thing that will take place in the future. So the Star normally comes after the Tower in order to tell us that we have our new north, our new true north. We're going to start exploring the options that are ahead of us. We have all of these stars in the nighttime sky in this period of darkness in which we sit. And however, it's going to allow us to find a new place. You haven't found that new place yet, but whatever is taking place, and I'm getting strong divorce cards here, it leaves you feeling like you're stuck in your head. There's a lot of trepidation that comes with this type of energy. And however, in this card here, we see a chrysalis right here. This is you getting to the point where you are finally emerging from that chrysalis and you are born anew. You're able to finally emerge from your life that you've had to leave behind and then go into a new energy. So you're currently in a dissolution period, because many times when we have the butterfly, that is a symbol of death, of change. And we are speaking about the underworld as one of our main cards for the archetypes. You're just waiting for that death period to go through. So I'll stick with the theme of divorce. You've gone through a heavy divorce. You're not happy about it. You've lost a lot of resources and revenues because of that. That said, you're now working on trying to, uproot yourself, to rebalance your life, and then move forward with something more positive. If you've lost a job, you're now trying to get to the period where you're out of that dark night of the soul. If this is a love life, if you've said, I'm done, I'm disappointed with the way things have been going in my love life, you may shake things up because you're ready to get out of this period of constantly overthinking things, constantly feeling a bit nervous about, the way your life has developed, and to try to make sense of the matter. And it's going to be important for you to do that, so that way you can clear that energy out. Just a quick note as to what's going to take place in the near future. Okay, you have the moon card. And what else? What about the moon card? This is not a good reading. Holy shit. So, dear Virgo, I apologize that this reading is absolute bollocks today. Moon card clarified by the Ten of Swords. Let's focus on the positive. You have the Moon card. You're facing these fears. You're facing this underworld. You've now fallen through the cracks in the fault line. The Moon is the facing of all of those fears and challenges, but you have to use your intuition in order to navigate through them. Ten of Swords is a good card. It's not the Nine of Swords. It's not the Eight of Swords, which means that it's coming to a head. But this is about finally things are over. The negative situation is over. We can now move towards the Ace of Swords again, or we can move towards getting out of this situation, which will then require solutions, maybe a new Ace of Swords, which will then point you in the right direction. And so if you have gone through a massive, messy divorce, then I feel for you, because it's a lot of people going through this. It's kind of one reason why I do not really support the institution of marriage at this particular point in time, because of the way the laws are skewed. And that can be a tricky thing, especially when you invest a lot into people, but then they don't invest in you. And on top of that, they take half and your dignity in the process. Is there any advice? Any advice? Okay. Page of Cups. So with the Page of Cups, it tells us, despite all of this that is taking place in your life, always forgive yourself for anything you did on your end. And furthermore, you want to make sure that you are filling your own cup. Communicate to yourself in a way that tells you that things will be at peace. You are worthy of love. It's not your fault. Soothe your energy. Make sure that you then take the initial steps to learning what it means to love. Because maybe you felt that in the recent past, you gave that love to yourself, to something else, whether that was a job, whether that was a person, whether that was a situation, a place of where you're living, and so on and so on. And what you're realizing now is that in order to get through this dark night of the soul, you're going to have to communicate to yourself in a loving, forgiving, and healthy way, which tells you, things will be all right. And I'll pull one more. Okay. Yeah. So, Ace of Swords in the reverse. This can talk about having poor communication, no communication at all. You may just be in a period where you want to communicate to yourself. You want to isolate yourself from the world at large until you get the breakthrough that you need, that is going to help you to understand and make sense of everything. Oof, good grief. Devil card, try not to get involved in anything that is tempting to ease the pain of this situation. It's very easy for us to turn to drink, turn to drugs, turn to sex, turn to things that are not necessarily going to help us, negative thought patterns, beating yourself up. Try to turn this devil energy into something that says, I can climb out of this fault line. I can imagine like a goat falling into the fault line and then slowly climbing itself out of that. That's one good thing about the devil, is that it tells us that if you obsess over the end result, that is going to help you to achieve a specific goal in mind. So try to think of it that way. I hope this reading has been helpful. It's a very heavy reading for the Virgos. And yeah. So let me know what you think of it in the comments below. This has been Aluminum Tarot. Thanks so much for joining. I hope that the Virgos have a good, healthy season this time around. Enjoy the springtime weather. Until next time. Love and light. Bye now.